I would suggest that most businesses that are well run, who understand their market, know what they're good at, have the relationships, they'll always find opportunities, and they should be able to attract the best talent. I ask business owners, what is it you do that clients really value? That should just flow off the tip of your tongue. That absolutely, exactly, you know the market, you know what you do, what the customers really value and why they come to you and why they want to continue to work with you. See, if you don't understand that, that to me is an absolute fundamental. And as I say, in my experience, some very, very successful businesses, when you ask that question, they struggle, and they shouldn't.
Hi everybody, Gavin Coyle here. I'm the Gaffer back again with another great guest. It's Paul McDevitt, and Paul helps businesses within the construction sector, and especially so in the small to medium enterprises, but has gone right up into multinational, large-scale, international businesses in the construction sector, has lived the experience himself, so he knows what he's talking about. And really, to be honest with you, from the calls that I've had with Paul, it's really given back, I suppose, if you wanted to put it in one simple context. He has all this wealth of knowledge. He doesn't want to carry it around with him because it's a burden. So he's decided to give it out and give it to construction owners to help them in their businesses. They may not want to scale. They might want to be where they are at the moment. He can help them be the best version of that. Or they just want somebody to help them grow the business. Paul, thanks very much for joining us on I'm the Gaffer. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Gavin. Thanks for the opportunity.
No problem. I hope I didn't miss out anything on the intro, but you definitely have a fantastic career path built behind you, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about that in terms of the size and scale of the construction industry that you went as far with.
Sure, delighted to. My background's in economics with finance. I was going to be an accountant at one point, and then I decided that's not really where my skills set lay. I just got married. I got offered a job with the Royal Bank of Scotland down in London in the kind of merchant banking side, and I didn't particularly fancy. My wife had a career in Paisley, so I actually fell into construction by default. My brother-in-law was a surveyor with a local contractor, Clark Contracts in Paisley, and I joined them as a marketing manager. I said to my wife at the time, I'll give this 6 months and I'll get a real job. And that was way back in 1995, and I've been involved in construction in one capacity ever since. And I love it. It's a fantastic industry that does absolutely amazing things with some absolutely amazing people. But it's clearly got some pretty fundamental issues as well, hence the reasons why I kind of do what I do.
Yeah, it was one of the things that stuck out for me, and I know we've had a discussion about this as well, is your background in marketing, and then to become the owner of, and to go so far as you did with these big companies. Can you just give us that pathway of how marketing developed into where you are today? Because I thought that was very fascinating.
I say, I got the opportunity with Clark Contracts as their marketing manager. The objective was to grow that business into more of a kind of national contractor. So I decided I would go away and do a postgraduate diploma in marketing to add to the skill set. I did that. After a couple of years, I was headhunted by a company called Holland Toz, which was a national contractor that then became Mansell. And again, I was invited to become marketing manager of one of their divisions in central Scotland. That business had been failing, losing money, quite significant sums of money the year before I joined, and I was part of a new senior management team. So we helped develop a kind of strategy that turned that business around. Within 9 months, we were back in the black. Within 2 or 3 years, we were probably one of the best performing divisions in the whole of Mansell. And I really enjoyed that. On the back of my time there, they agreed to pay for me to do an MBA, and something I always wanted to do. So I started doing the MBA. In the midst of that, Mansell got bought over by Balfour Beatty, and unfortunately, I was seen as an expensive overhead, and I was made redundant. So that was something I didn't see coming. They were talking about making me a director. The fact they were paying for me to do the MBA, I was feeling things were progressing really well. And then I was at a kind of crossroads, and I thought, what do I want to do? And I thought, this is probably the best opportunity I'm going to get to go out and do my own thing. I think the MBA certainly gave me the confidence to do that. Having said that, with the 2 young kids, a mortgage that would choke a horse, and an MBA to pay for, setting out on your own is maybe not the smartest thing to do. But I did it, and it certainly helped kind of focus the mind. And I kind of decided after I'd been doing that for probably about 6 months on my own, I approached a guy who I'd done my postgraduate diploma with, a chap called Brian Dukes. Brian was a civil engineer. Him and I were the only 2 guys from construction. And we'd always kind of kept in touch. There was always that kind of bond, through the construction industry. And we decided that, he'd throw his hat into the ring with me. And the whole idea of setting up the company Business Fix was to recognition that the construction industry was very poor at marketing. So we decided we would help businesses right across the construction sector develop their marketing strategies. And what we quickly found is not only when we were in talking to these organisations, didn't have any marketing strategy, and they certainly did they not just have a marketing strategy, they didn't have any strategy at all. And this isn't small micro businesses. This was large, medium size, and large corporates, UK national contractors who you would thought would have a very clear strategy, and they didn't. So on the back of that, we started working with, say, architects, engineers, quantity surveyors, contractors of all shapes and sizes. We worked for all of the federations. We worked for the professional bodies. We even worked for the Scottish Government. So, we really got a real sense of what makes businesses successful in the construction industry. And I have to say, when we started that journey, it's one of the best things I've ever done. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's what's kept me in the construction industry all these years. I mean, I've had plenty of other opportunities to get out of construction and go and work in probably more lucrative sectors. But as I said, the industry's got some fantastic people in it, and it does absolutely unbelievable things. So it's an industry I think we should all be incredibly proud of. As I said, not without its issues. Some of them are pretty fundamental, and in my view, the industry really needs to change. But it's not going to change overnight. It takes time.
Yeah, what year were you talking about there? What's the time scale?
Time scale, I say, started in construction 1995, joined Clark Contracts then, joined Mansell in 97, left them in 2003 to set up Business Fix, and that I operated for Business Fix for probably over nearly 15 years. And then at that point, my business partner, Brian's significantly older than me, he was looking to wind down. I had a client, a company called Tooth Sud, which is a global technical services company. They asked me to come and join them. And it's not every day you get the opportunity to design your own role. So I did that, and I spent 5 years there. Firstly, on the board of the mechanical and electrical consultancy. I was also on the board of a vertical transportation business that they had in the UK, and within a couple of years I was promoted to the main board of the UK. So I say great experience, really good company to work for, but unfortunately that journey kind of came to an end a couple of years back. and then I decided to. I was in a fortunate position that the opportunity to take some stock. Didn't need to do anything for a year or so. I put out a notice on LinkedIn to say, I'd left too soon and was looking around, and I got probably half a dozen opportunities. Some of them, were consultancy. Some of them have been non-exec director roles, and some of them have been mentoring opportunities. So that decision was taken for me, and I say I thoroughly enjoy what I do.
Yeah, so when you put the mix together, finance into marketing and then MBA, that's the kind of core skill set, and that's a unique profile in the construction industry. And it actually makes so much sense that those three. So you have kind of business entrepreneurship, you have the marketing, and you have the sort of finance in that as well.
I think probably going back to the early 2000s. Yeah, that skill set I think was fairly unique.
Niche.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think as time's gone on, there's more people within the construction industry have went away and done MBAs. Having said that, there was nobody.
Yeah.
When in my MBA class of 50 people, there was no one from a construction background. So there was guys who had maybe started off. In fact, a couple of the smartest guys in my MBA course were two guys who started off as sparkies, and they went away, got their degrees, and worked their way up the ladder. And as I say, they were probably two of the sharpest guys on the whole MBA program.
Yeah, because I remember back in those that the reason I asked you the timescale was, I remember back in that timescale, and I would have thought that I was doing a great document and it looked really flashy and it had this lovely front cover, and I was able to put these lovely plastic binders together and clip and all this kind of stuff. But that was the marketing, and I'm talking about easily 50 million or 30 million turnover construction company, and you think that you're doing this fantastic marketing, and then you're going into a presentation with the company to do a presentation to a client, and you think you're great with this PowerPoint presentation and stuff like that. And then there was a shift. I remember very distinctly there was a shift of culture within the construction sector where people kind of said, look, we need to have a brand, a reputation that's, serves us with the clients, brings in more staff, and shows that we're a responsible, ethical, safe company. And they're definitely, if you go walk around the streets of London or Glasgow or Dublin, whatever it is, and you see the billboards and you see the marketing, and what goes on behind it could be a different story, but definitely from the face of it, you go, wow, these guys must be serious operators.
I think that
you were at the forefront of that.
Well, I think the image, had to, the image of the industry had to change. My business partner and I set up the Chartered Institute of Marketing Construction Industry Group in Scotland back in 1999, and we basically, the idea there was to help promote the skills, marketing skills across the industry. And at the kind of peak of that organisation, we had over 200 members from all sectors of the industry, and it was about encouraging people to really embrace marketing to help develop the brand and how they connect with customers. And we used to organise events with guest speakers coming from all over the UK, and with some real keynote speakers at the time. And it was a great thing to be involved in. And from that, you've seen things like construction excellence and various other initiatives that have helped to promote the image of construction. Although I still think it does have an issue in terms of how it's perceived. Certainly, attracting new talent into the industry is a challenge. It's a real challenge, and I don't think the industry has addressed that properly. I don't think the education system really understands the whole myriad of opportunities that are available within construction. I think, again, the perception is very much of, it's a very dangerous industry. It's dirty. It's outside. It's not the kind of environment that people with ambition should really want to get involved in. And I think that's an image it's really got to change.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's unique to construction, but I would say construction, in my opinion, and you could talk to this, but I would say construction is down the list.
I think it is. I do think, and maybe not so much now, but certainly in the past, people that weren't necessarily academic probably didn't think, that construction, there was other options for them. So I think career advisors pointed them in the direction of construction, and I think that's created a whole kind of raft of problems going forward. When I was at Business Fix just before I left, I did a survey of 100 business leaders right across the clients of ours at the time, let's say representing all sections of the industry, and asked them, if you had a son and daughter, would you recommend construction as a career? Guess what number out of 100 said yes?
I'd say it was low. You're probably less than 20.
One. And the only reason he said yes was
one.
And the only reason he said yes was because his daughter was already an architect. One person. And this is business leaders. And that's a fundamental issue.
This is, but so let me put that question to you. Is that because there's a culture of? Is that a culture question? Is that a leadership question, which obviously has a direct link to culture? Like, where's the fundamental problem in that? Outside of the marketing message, what is it that people are saying? Like, is it, I don't want to get dirty, I don't want to get sweaty, I don't want to do mad hours? Do we have any sort of data on that?
I think it's probably, it's not one single thing. It's a combination of factors, as you've suggested. I think there's all those reasons. I think there's the perception that there's maybe not the kind of career progression, that maybe the financial rewards are not necessarily there either. In other industries and sectors are more glamorous. Construction does not have a glamorous image. But my attitude has always been that without construction, nothing else works. Construction creates the buildings, the infrastructure, and without that, there's no other sector can operate. So construction is absolutely fundamental, and I think it needs to be much more of a priority with governments than it currently has. It doesn't have the profile, in my view, that represents the number of people that it employs and its contribution to GDP. I think contribution to UK GDP is approximately 10%. That's a really, really significant player. And it's not got, it doesn't get the recognition, in my opinion, in the political circles that it really should. And I think, again, all of those things, I think, contribute. But,
yes, but to play the devil's advocate on that, though, sorry to go across you, but to play sort of the devil's advocate on that, when there is a downturn, the construction industry gets savaged out of it. People lose their jobs overnight.
Sure.
And they're nearly one of the first industries to sort of feel the hit. Okay, the restaurant and hospitality industry gets hit as well. But, it's back to I know from a UK perspective, the agency model is, another reason why people they don't really have the security going through recruitment agencies and stuff like that. And maybe that's where there's a barrier where the conveyor belt is stopping, because people are only tourists in the construction industry, where they're just doing enough to get by, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable comment. I do think the model for construction is wrong. But you're right. The industry does tend to be the first one hit, but equally it tends to be the first one that comes out of recession. So, I think because the industry is, the risks involved, because of the wafer thin margins, there's always going to be challenges there, and businesses are going to fold and fail whenever we look at a kind of recession, or an economic downturn. But equally, there are a lot of very, very resilient and well-run organisations, and I think whenever a recession comes along, I always say to my clients, it's going to be challenging. There's still opportunities out there. You might have to work a little bit harder to get them, but they're still there. And what tends to happen in a recession is the weaker organisations, the ones that are badly run, they're the ones that don't survive, and that's it's unfortunate.
They weren't going to survive anyway.
No, they're not. So
regardless of a recession, they weren't going to survive.
Sorry, no, they're not. And that's that's the reality. So some businesses fold, and sometimes some good businesses have been caught up in that too, and that's really, really unfortunate. But I would suggest that most businesses that are well run, who understand their market, know what they're good at, have the relationships, they'll always find opportunities, and they should be able to attract the best talent.
And from my experience, those companies operate in well insulated industries like utilities, like the rail, aviation, construction, specialisms in sort of well-governed industries where the government, regardless of whether they like it or not, have a budget and they have to keep a program moving that has to keep the world moving. And so, some of the projects might be put on hold for a while, but definitely, if you stay in those sort of well-governed niche type industries in construction, they still kept going throughout the pandemic and throughout the recessions.
When we set up Business Fix in 2003, we came through in the financial crash, 2007, 2008. We were looking at a situation. I remember it vividly one Friday afternoon, getting phone calls all morning from clients either cancelling projects that we were working on, or projects we had in the pipeline. And I'm sitting looking at my business partner, and I'm thinking, I think one of us is going to have to jump because I don't see a way around this. And I went away all weekend, and I really stewed over it. And by Monday, I'd kind of got myself together again and decided this isn't going to happen. We're going to roll up the sleeves. And we then started changing our model, and it was all about helping businesses to basically to win work, and that's what we focused on, and that saved our business, and it created a whole myriad of other opportunities for us, to do more of the kind of strategic stuff, to do more training. There were still opportunities out there, just the way we approached it had to be different. And I think that's the difficulty. Businesses they get too kind of embedded in a particular sector, and that's really, really dangerous. If that sector has a kind of downturn, then you're really, really going to struggle. So businesses have got to be able to adapt. The trouble is, again, and this is my experience. You can be a good architect, you can be a good engineer, you can be a good contracts manager. Doesn't necessarily make you a good business person, and that's the challenge. Things are great when everyone's bouncing along nicely, and everyone's making money, and But as soon as something changes, in the marketplace, doing what you've always done isn't going to see you through. You've got to adapt. You've got to work harder. What tends to happen in construction, not just construction, but I'm sure other industries as well. The first thing that gets cut, marketing and training. And again, I don't understand that. I just do not understand it. So basically, what you're doing is you stop promoting that you're out and open for business. You totally retrench. So how do people know that that you're out there, you're actively seeking work or opportunities? They don't, because you've shut up shop. So whether and that's the perception that's created, and then before you know it, the phone stops ringing. And I think it's a really, really dangerous thing to do. And I think the evidence suggests that companies that do invest in marketing, do invest in developing their people during recessions, tend to come out of it and fare much better.
I'm so glad you said that, and it resonates with me because I was only listening to Charlie Mullins from Pimlico Plumbers today, actually, and 90% he said of his time is spent on marketing. Well, it was when he was growing the business, and as he said himself, there's no point in being a great company or saying you're a great company if nobody can hear you. And Absolutely. So, in the downturn, these people are losing their jobs. So there's great people coming onto the market. So you want to get your message out to them to say, come and join me, because we got some good stuff going on. You also want the clients to know that they have an alternative option to the guy that's gone out of business. So, hey, look, I'm over here. But how can you do that if you don't have the marketing machine ramped up or turned on or even engaged?
Yeah, I say it doesn't make any sense to me. I think it then becomes a kind of downward spiral. You've got to, why would you want to be anonymous? Marketing is excuse me, the way that you engage with your customer base. And if people don't know who you are, why would they buy from you? They wouldn't. So you need to continue to invest.
The other thing that I see is what and the flips sort of there's a structural problem that I've seen as well, in that not many these people have a valid business plan in the business, or a business plan at all, or a plan that everybody's aware of, or a plan that's shared. Or I have a plan, and every time I look at it I go, why did I put that in there? Mm-hmm. That's not what I do, or that's not, might be only little tweaks, but still I look at it and I go, that was a moment in time, but it's not this moment in time. And it shocks me how people dismiss the whole business plan conversation. And I know we've just talked about marketing, so this is why I'm trying to create the context of it's not just a marketing fix, it's also a strategy fix.
In my experience, most businesses will have a budget. They'll have, these are the figures, this is what the turnover we're looking to achieve next year. They don't, and this isn't just the one-man bands I'm talking about. This is, I've seen it at some pretty big corporate organisations as well, where they don't have a clear set of objectives. They don't have any strategy that's going to tell them how they're going to do it. And even if they do, it's in the managing director or the chief executive's head, and it's not properly communicated to the people who are actually charged with delivering it. I remember years ago, during the kind of the financial crash, sitting with an MD of a business who had just turned over £100 million, and they were going through the budgets for next year, and he was told that he was expected to do 200 million, and this is in the light of the financial crash. And I sat down, we were having lunch, and I said, how are you going to do that? And his response to me, and I'll always remember, it was, feck knows. That was his response. Feck knows how I'm going to do that. And again, I've been involved in these whole kind of budgetary exercises where you develop a budget based on market intelligence, understanding your clients, knowing what the market's is capable of offering. You then put those figures forward. They get fired up the tree a bit. Somebody else adds on another wee percentage. It goes further up the tree, somebody else, and then it gets to the chief executive or the managing director, and he said, "Don't like that. This is what they're doing," and it's not based on any reality whatsoever. It's just basically pluck a figure out of the air and let's hope for the best. And I just think that's absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And it's just no way to create a kind of environment where people are really going to be engaged and feel that they can make a positive contribution to.
It's not. There's no sustainability in that model whatsoever.
No,
it's just reactive. It's just totally reactive.
But again, that's what a lot of organisations are like. They've gone in, they've got a reputation in a particular market sector, and that's fine. There's opportunities, but as I say, all it takes is a client to stop spending money, or for the sector to have a kind of downturn. It's then what do you do? And if you're not, creating that resilience within the business, by having a clear plan, a clear vision of where you want the business to go, a clear set of objectives that everyone has bought into and understands what they're expected to achieve, and then you haven't developed a strategy that says this is how we are going to do this, and this is your role that you've got to play in delivery of that strategy. Then it's pot luck whether you make it or not, and that's, I think, unfortunately how a lot of organisations are run.
Like even to put that into context, I know an individual had set up their own business, one-man band, and he came to me recently and he was like, "Listen, I'm thinking about buying this software. It's really good for my sector. Like, and it's a lot of people are using it in my sector, and it's going to help me track my servicing and my installations and all this kind of stuff." And I thought it sounded great. But as I said to him, I says, "What's the most important thing in your business right now?" And he couldn't give me the answer. It should be off your head like that. And he was like, and he was kind of nearly giving me answers that were kind of guess answers that he didn't really know the full answer himself. And I said, "Look," I said, "the most important thing for you is getting paid." Because he's in the one-man band territory, and he was looking at this nice shiny little software package over here, whereas he didn't even have like a zero accounts package. Like, that's okay not to have a zero accounts package or a Sage package. I don't mind that. That's not the end of the world. But the point I was trying to make to him was, it's more important for you to get paid at the moment. You can make decisions that are, luxury decisions that I call them, later on down the road, and that'll have to be based on due diligence. But like, it all leads back to even the podcast. What we talk about here is risk management. In my mind, and maybe you can speak to it more, is like that people don't set out the risks within their business and have a risk register of, here's how I'm going to fail. Here's the way other people have failed in the industry, and here's the way I will fail if I don't have a set of rules that holds me accountable and that I have to follow.
I mean, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of organisations in the sector don't have a proper risk register, and if they do, it's a document that they produce, and once it's produced, it's probably never referred to again. I think that there's more to it than just the kind of risk. You're right about kind of getting paid. That's fundamental. You do a good job, you get paid. It should be simple and straightforward. But what I kind of find, and again from experience, I ask business owners, what is it you do that clients really value? And like you've just suggested, your colleague was struggling to come up with the answers, and it's pure guesswork. You should know that. That should just flow off the tip of your tongue. That absolutely, exactly. You know the market. You know what you do. You know what the customers really value and why they come to you and why they want to continue to work with you. See, if you don't understand that, that to me is an absolute fundamental. And as I say, in my experience, some very, very successful businesses, when you ask that question, they struggle, and they shouldn't. And that kind of led me to believe, when I kind of first started doing this, I generally thought anybody running a business was, the skill set they required had to be super sharp. They had to have all, understand the finance, understand risk, be able to market, be able to deal with people, have the management and leadership skills. And I've come away, and this is not just based on businesses that are struggling. This is based on, businesses that have been hugely successful. It's been luck, more luck than design. And I think, that's not right. You need to have a clear vision. You need to understand, and for me, fundamentally, it's about the vision and values. You need to have those basics. Once you have that understanding, it's then about creating a set of objectives, understanding the marketplace, and knowing how you add value, and then being able to go out there and promote and having the resource and the competencies to deliver.
Yeah, another theme that has come up in the podcast, Paul, and you'll speak to this as well, is know your lane and know what you're good at, and you've just spoken about that. But to know when to say no and to know what you don't do is just as important to know what you do. Oh. And I think a lot of people get sidetracked into something else that it's not their core business.
Oh, I mean, I've seen it all the time. Let me give you an example. We worked with a business a long time ago. Small contractor, basically did kind of refurbishments, office refurbishments. Very good, run by two really sharp guys. So we got involved and we helped the business grow from, I think, just 4 million to 10 million pounds. We helped them to develop a strategy and a focus. We did the research to say, these are the projects you're good at. This is the skill set of your people. This is where you can grow and build your reputation. That was fine, and they made £1 million net profit. The start of the next financial year, get a phone call from one of the guys saying, "Oh, we've got this opportunity. It's a new build extension." I'm saying, "You don't do new build." No, I know we don't, but it'd be great for turnover, blah, blah, blah. We'll bring someone in. And I'm saying, right, okay, understand that. At the end of the day, it's your business, your call. But I don't think you're set up for that. I think you really need to go away and think about this. I think you're taking a chance. So that was fine, and it was, I can't remember, £6-7 million project. So it was a big project going back, back all the way to years. Certainly the biggest project they'd ever undertaken by a significant margin. And they brought someone in, and I think, my understanding is that project went relatively well, so much so that the client decided to give them another one. So they embarked on that one, and they went long into the job, and the business folded. And I remember talking to the MD after the event, and they just lost sight of what they were good at. They moved into a sector that a service offering that they didn't have the skill set for, didn't know how to manage it, didn't have the cash flow to support it, and it's just a huge risk. So you're right, you've got to know your lane, you've got to know your numbers, you've really got to understand your customers. And I think, again, looking at this from a marketing perspective, I think businesses struggle. We like to think, and I include myself in this, we all like to think we're really close to our customers. Reality is we're not. We think we know them, we think we understand them, and if we're lucky, we might understand, have those kind of relationships with one or two. But the vast majority we're not that close to. We don't understand their thinking. We don't really understand what their drivers are and what their constraints are, and we're just guessing at it. And I think business, that needs to change. People need to really understand who their customers are and focus on those ones. I do a really simple thing with my clients, and I help them grade their customers. So I help them create what I call an ideal customer profile in terms of, level of repeat business, attitude to risk, payment terms, all a whole number of kind of criteria. And then I get them to grade their customer base, A, Bs and Cs. A customers are the ones that you're going to grow your business on the back of. They're the ones who are going to sustain you long term. B customers, what you want to try and do is convert them into A's. But some of them are not going to make it. And C customers just shouldn't be working with them, because you spend a disproportionate amount of time, effort and energy servicing these clients, and they don't really value what you do. And they'll go down the road. Somebody's 50 pence cheaper down the road, they'll go to them, and that's let somebody else work with them. And as I say, sometimes clients have kind of difficulty understanding that, or wanting to accept that, because at the end of the day, work's work, and if it's coming in the door, why should they turn it away? Well, you turn it away because you're not good at it and you can't make money. Why would you do it? Yeah, I've heard all the arguments of, it's turnover. Yeah, it's not turnover. It's a problem. It's a real problem. It's going to come and bite you.
Yeah, I think there's a conversation to be had around scale and capacity, and I think once you get past a certain capacity, you have the risk of potentially removing yourself from the front line of your customers, and you become more operational and distracted into other things like managing your employees and stuff like that, and that's not healthy. I'd like to hear your thoughts about maybe experiences where you've just explained, obviously a clear indication of people that get removed from what their customers want, need, and how you can serve them is really what we're trying to talk about here. It's a fascinating subject, and it's probably a podcast in itself in how to manage your customer. And I think there's real value in what you're talking about there. Like, if you knew your customers well enough, you wouldn't be in the shit.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And for me, it goes back to kind of values. We've all got values that are inherent to us, and what you want to be doing is you want to be working with people who share similar value systems. They believe in the same type of things, they operate the same kind of way, and working with someone who doesn't share your value system, it's just going to lead to problems further down the line. And it's the same, when it comes to businesses that have grown, and I've seen it, time and time again. Businesses growing, they need to bring in, resource. And again, I look at my experience from Mansell. Mansell spent a huge amount of money every year recruiting senior managers, and it looked at their connections, their expertise, technical knowledge, but I never once looked, is this individual going to fit? And so they spend all the money, recruitment agencies bringing people in. Very quickly, the business would look at them and think, you don't belong here, and they would be engineered out the door. Or equally, the individual themselves would say, I don't belong here, and they would leave. And, so that was just, money straight off the bottom line that didn't need to be spent, because we weren't looking at the values. We weren't looking at people who were going to come in, who felt that they belonged in the organisation, and who were therefore going to start to contribute, and be productive. And that's a real danger. You mentioned businesses that are starting to scale. What happens? We need to get people in the door, so they go through the kind of makeshift recruitment process. They end up selecting people because they're desperate, and in my view, they're just basically recruiting another bum on a seat who isn't going to contribute, isn't going to, isn't engaged, isn't going to be productive. And some of these people can actually end up being, unfortunately, saboteurs. And, they drag good people that are around them, they drag them down. And then, before you know it, a team that had been performing well suddenly isn't performing because you've got somebody in your midst who really shouldn't be there. Yeah, and and again, businesses too. I've seen it. They're paying top dollar for average people. Again, that's a downward spiral. And it happens time and time again. I need someone. And I've sat in interviews with managing directors, and I've said, right, you deal with all the technical stuff because I don't have a technical bone in my body, but I'll look at the kind of values. I'll look at the kind of the personality competencies that you're looking for, and I'll deal with those kind of questions in the interview. So that's fine. So I go away, I do my homework, I prepare a whole set of questions, turn up for the interview. The MD is running late, so he rushes into the meeting, picks up the CV, and I'm convinced it's probably the first time he's looked at the CV, and then in the process of conducting the interview. And so we go through the kind of technical question, candidate responds pretty well, start going into the kind of the personality and the values, doesn't perform overly well, and as we get the individual talking, he happens to mention a couple of names of people that I knew in the industry. So after the interview is concluded, MD and I retired to the pub just to kind of talk it through, and MD was really keen to sign the guy up, and I said, let's hold off. I said, he's mentioned a couple of names of people that I know, let me speak to them and I'll come back to you the next day. Did that. I went away, phoned a couple of guys that I knew, had the conversation. This guy was a muppet, an absolute muppet. Yeah, my client was going to pay him a lot of money and bring him in at a senior level. Guy was just not capable. He was never going to fit in to the organisation, and he wasn't going to be able to deliver what the client was looking for. So what was going to happen is they then have to go through the process and the time and effort that takes to get him out of the business, and then they would have to start the whole process again. That's just not a good scenario to be in, and it just wastes a lot of time, effort, and money. So getting the values right, understanding what you're about, understanding that you want people, you want to work with like-minded clients, and that you want people in the organisation who have the same value system. Because if they don't, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
No, and I heard some really good advice recently. This guy was saying about entrepreneurs that there's an inherent issue with them, that they have this. I know, obviously, they have this risk radar that is, tolerant to take on more risk, but they also have this knee-jerk sort of personality trait where they jump into things, and part of that is obviously taking on people on the fly or in a reactive mode, and then there's the whole chaos and scenario of trying to deal with that person now that they have this problem. And he said that one of his biggest challenges, one of them, not all of them, but one of them, was trying to get the entrepreneur to slow down. Mm-hmm. And small is beautiful. Scale doesn't mean success.
No.
And, momentum will come once you have the processes and the structure and the sustainability. And, it's a great feeling when you're in part of a company, and I've been there before, where everything is just so well oiled. It just feels so like there's nothing that is out of place or nothing that can't be done, and the energy levels are right up there, and it's infectious when you're in that environment. But if you start creating chaos, it just demotivates everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a really, really good article that I would encourage people to read. It's Surfing on the Edge of Chaos by a chap called Richard Pascal. And it's very much about that, getting organisations out of equilibrium. It's human nature. We want things to be comfortable. We want to be steady, and we don't like that kind of area of uncertainty. And what Pascal is arguing in his paper is, no, you want to be on that surfing on the edge of chaos, because that's when people are engaged. That's where there's real, excitement and the adrenaline's pumping, and people perform. But the difficulty is, how do you maintain that? It's very, very difficult. You look at some of the greatest sporting teams there's ever been. Barcelona, football team. Obviously Real Madrid again, the All Blacks in rugby. They've had world beating teams, but they've never managed to sustain that. They can sustain it for 2 or 3 years. But something always kind of changes, and it's very, very difficult to keep that that level of performance. So businesses need to be, I say, creating that kind of environment. And I say to business leaders, your job is to create the environment that your people thrive in. See if you can do that, your business will be successful. But what you find is the culture, the environment doesn't do that. It doesn't sustain people. It doesn't engage them. And I always look at Gallup do a survey every year. Looking at employee engagement, and I think the last one I haven't seen. I think it's come out for this year yet, but certainly last year they were reckoning across the globe. 23% of employees are what they call actively engaged. So that's people who are thriving. In the UK, it was 10%. What the rest of the people do? They're getting the day in. They're getting the day in. And, and there'll be another percentage. Again, there's various varying figures on it, but there's a kind of bottom 10% who are adding no value. In fact, if anything, they are detractors, they're saboteurs, and businesses need to get rid of them because they're just dangerous. They'll upset good people around them, who have been performing, who are engaged, and as you say, toxic's absolutely the word. They need to be engineered out of the business as quickly as possible. And I've seen it. I've seen it at a whole variety of levels, from managers, associates, directors, even managing directors. I've seen guys who are running businesses who are just got totally the wrong attitude, and are not. It's not they're not capable. They're fundamentally, certainly the individual I'm thinking about was immensely capable, but he had just totally disengaged. He was fed up, and he needed to be got out. And it took a long time for me to convince the powers that be that he needed to be removed. And there was so much fear about take that individual out of the business. It's going to really impact on that business. They took him out of the business, and that business has thrived.
Yeah.
So it's recognising that you need good people. You need people who are there and that they're engaged. And see if they're engaged, then your business will be successful. When your business faces challenges, then these people will rise to the occasion.
They'll be there.
And that's what you need, because you can't do it all yourself. You need good people around you. So getting people who share the value system, who have bought into your vision of where you want this business to go. You've developed a firm set of objectives that are clearly understood and clearly communicated, and together you develop a strategy that says this is how we are going to deliver it. See, when you get that, it's a really, really powerful a really, really powerful process. Yeah,
I think that's a good way to sort of get to the end of our podcast, Paul, and it's been an immense in terms of knowledge and information from yourself. There's so much more that I could talk to you about that we probably didn't scratch, that I'd love to maybe get you back on in the future as well, because I'd love you maybe to talk us through the customer journey with yourself and what that looks like. But if people wanted to contact you, how do they do it? Like, I'm sure you're open to a discovery call or something.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
With just sort of no obligation,
Yeah, well, got my LinkedIn profile. They can email me at paul@mcdevitt.co. I'm more than happy. I'm always happy to have a conversation. You never know where these conversations lead, and some of the most exciting projects I've worked on have come from a call out of the blue, where we've had a conversation, and I thought, yeah, I like this individual. I like what they do, and I think I can add real value. And they're the kind of projects, they're the things that get me out of bed in the morning. And so, yeah, more than happy to have a conversation. Costs nothing, and I say you just never know where it goes.
Yeah, and it's a case of, it could be a project. It could be just I need a sound bite to see where I'm at, where the business is at. It could be, you know what, I'm in trouble here. I need to gather some people around me, and Paul seems like a person I could talk to, because I think the industry definitely needs more of you guys and less of the, see, there's kind of a veering towards coaching and sort of, bringing people into sort of boiler house programs that are just pump and dump and upselling them information. Whereas this is the way I wanted to get you on the podcast. You're like straight in there, typical Glaswegian.
Wow.
Hard hitting, no crap, get straight to the bullshit, cut out the bullshit and get straight to the point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it wrong. I don't mess about. At the end of the day, my time's money, and I don't want to waste clients' money. And equally, I want to work with clients that have got an open mind. And anything that I do has got to be based on it. It's got to be evidence based. So you've got to go and do your due diligence, really understand, the individual, the business leader, understand his team, understand the market, understand how the business is perceived in the marketplace. And see, when you've got that knowledge, that's the foundation for starting the process to develop the vision, develop the values, the objectives, and the strategy. Once you've got that, it's a simple process. It's robust, and I've worked with over 300 business leaders right across the sector over the years, and it works. I've seen businesses double, treble in size. Just working with a business at the moment. I was invited in a couple of years ago. Division not performing well, losing a lot of money, and had been for a couple of years. We went in, we did all the kind of diagnostic stuff. We sat down with the business leaders. It was pretty evident from the get-go that these guys had, the business had been really successful, but just grown too quickly, and they'd kind of lost their way. So, we sat down, we helped them in terms of, what does this business stand for? So we developed the vision, we developed the values, we helped them communicate them to the staff, and therefore, we then developed the objectives and the strategy to deliver that. And that business is now, back in the black, making money, and talking to the MD last week. It's made added 1.5% to its net margin. So absolutely flying, and that's what can be done. But the business, the guy at the top of the tree, you can't do it all. You talk about this kind of skill set at the very start of the program. Nobody's got all those skills. We all need help. It doesn't matter whether you're starting out or you're incredibly experienced. Some of the guys I work with have got more experience in the industry than I've got. But I work with them, I mentor them, and together we come up with a plan that everybody buys into, and it moves the business forward.
Yeah, I definitely see you're the facilitator in the middle that joins everything together, that can pull the pieces back into line, and it is a puzzle. And leaders need people like you, even if they think they have all the puzzles sorted out. They don't. Nobody does. And I'm not even saying that you can put all the puzzle together, because that puzzle will start shifting over time, and therefore it's a constant journey. And I think it's a credit to you, Paul, and I'm so grateful for you to give us your time on the podcast today. And I wish you every success. We'll put your details in the show notes so people can contact you directly. No fee, obligation, discovery call, that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
Have a chat with them. And we wish you the best, Paul.
No, thank you for the opportunity, and I apologise if I got on my soapbox. Unfortunately, I tend to do. I get a bit carried away, but no, it's really nice to talk to you, and I say I'm here to help if I can help. I'm more than happy to.